By the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah, even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise and shine, and the sun will rise and shine. By the grace of Allah.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Amma ba'd, fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulullah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabi Allah, wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nurallah. MashaAllah, viewers of Madani Channel, it's a rise and shine. Today the topic of the day. The topic of the day today is something that, well, it's a personality, it's an individual, it's a personality, but it's someone that the name we've heard so often. We keep on, so many times we hear this name. We've heard it, the Imam Sahib has mentioned it so many times on the Friday khutbah. Whenever we listen to a speech, we hear this name is constantly mentioned. But do we know anything about this person? Who is this person? Without doubt, everybody will have heard the name. But do we know anything about this individual? Before I introduce who this person is, let's listen to a blessing of reciting Durood Pak and then the Tilawat of the Holy Quran. With regards to the blessing of Durood Pak, it's been recited, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said that recite salat upon me wherever you are, Allahu Akbar, as your salat will reach me. So when you recite Durood Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wherever you are, that Durood Pak will reach the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So please, as we keep on saying, get into a habit of reciting Durood Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And who knows, my dear viewers of Madani Channel, that one extra Durood Pak that you recite today might make all the difference on the Day of Judgment. As you know, viewers of Madani Channel, that whenever you watch Rise and Shine, at the beginning of Rise and Shine, we also are blessed with listening to a few verses of the Holy Quran. So let's listen to a few verses of the Holy Quran. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم صدق الله العظيم.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Viewers of Madani Channel, what a brilliant way to start our day by listening to some beautiful verses of the Holy Quran. And if only we can make a habit of listening to the Quran or reading the Quran every single day of our lives, inshaAllah Azza wa Jal. Viewers of Madani Channel, what are we going to talk about today? Today we're going to talk about a great muhaddis. Now, what is a muhaddis? That's the first thing that we need to know, isn't it? The muhaddis, a muhaddis. A muhaddis is someone who remains engaged and occupied in the hadith of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he is called a muhaddis. And there are many, many muhaddis, so that's not really giving you a great clue, has it? It's not really, because a lot of scholars today are also called muhaddis because they are involved in teaching the hadith of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they're engaged in studying it. But one of the, probably the greatest muhaddis that there has ever been is the muhaddis that we're going to talk about today. And this muhaddis is a person that was born in the month of Shahbal. And we're talking about none other than the great Imam Bukhari, rahmatullahi ta'ala, that he was the person that we hear this name, we hear Bukhari, 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 every day we hear it. The Imam Sahib said, the Bukhari, in Bukhari it is this, in Bukhari this. And we all learn from this, you know, from young kids. When we were young children, we used to go to the masjid and the Imam Sahib used to say, oh, in Bukhari it says this, and in Bukhari it says that. So we think that, okay, Bukhari is the name of a book. Yeah, we didn't know anything else. And so as far as we were concerned, it was just a name of a book. But inshaAllah, today we're going to learn a little bit about his life, a few parables of his life, how he acquired this passion for learning, his childhood, inshaAllah, and hopefully we can benefit from it as well. Because I keep on saying, this is our rich heritage, this is our history. As Muslims, we have this rich heritage that we need to know about these great personalities so we can have our role models in our society. But viewers of Madani Channel, those of you that watch Arise and Shine also know that after the tilawat of the Quran, we have the Daily Kalam. So inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, we're now going to go to the Daily Kalam. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Salli ala Nabiyyina, Salli ala Muhammadin, Salli ala Shafi'ina, Salli ala Muhammadin, Salli ala Nabiyyina, Salli ala Muhammadin, Salli ala Shafi'ina, Salli ala Muhammadin. Wo jo na the to kuch na tha, wo jo na ho to kuch na ho, wo jo na the to kuch na tha, wo jo na ho to kuch na ho. जान है वो जहान की जान है तो जहान है सल्ले अला नबीना सल्ले अला मुहम्मदिन सल्ले अला शफीना सल्ले अला मुहम्मदिन चमक तुझसे पाते हैं सब पाने वाले मेरा दिल भी चमका दे चमका दे वाले मेरा दिल भी चमका दे चमकाने वाले बरसता नहीं देख कर अबरे रहमत बरसता नहीं देख कर अबरे रहमत बदों पर भी बरसा दे बरसा दे वाले बदों والے میرا دل بھی چمکا دے چمکانے والے حرم کی زمین اور قدم رکھ کے چلنا حرم کی زمین اور قدم رکھ کے چلنا ارے صدقہ موقع ہے او جانے والے ارے صدقہ موقع ہے او جانے والے میرا دل بھی چمکا دے چمکانے والے میرا دل بھی چمکا دے چمکانے والے مدینے کے خطے خدا تجھ کو رکھے مدینے کے خطے خدا تجھ کو رکھے غریبوں فقیروں کے ٹھہرانے والے غریبوں فقیروں کے ٹھہرانے والے میرا دل بھی چمکا دے چمکانے والے میرا دل بھی چمکا دے چمکانے والے تو زندہ ہے واللہ تو زندہ ہے واللہ تو زندہ ہے واللہ تو زندہ ہے واللہ میری چشم عالم سے چھپ جانے والے میرے چشم عالم سے چھپ جانے والے چمک تجھ سے پاتے گئے سب پانے والے میرا دل بھی چمکا دے چمکانے والے رضا نفس سے دشمن ہے دم میں نارضا نفس سے دشمن ہے دم میں نہ آنا کہاں تم نے دیکھیں گے چندرانے والے کہاں تم نے دیکھیں گے چندرانے والے چمک تجھ سے پاتے گے سب پانے والے میرا دل بھی چمکا دے چمکانے والے میرا دل بھی چمکا دے چمکانے والے.
صلو علی الحبیب صلی اللہ تعالی علی محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم. بیوٹیفل کلام میرا دل بھی چمکا دے چمکانے والے. اللہ اکبر, اللہ اکبر. And in that he mentions, Allah Hazrat mentions the zinda hai wallah, without doubt, and he makes a promise on Allah Azza wa Jalla that you are alive, but my eyes are not capable of seeing this. Allahu Akbar. And again, these kalams that we listen to, viewers of Madani Channel, they are there to instill the love of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in our hearts. And without that love, then your iman is not there. And we know that it's such an important branch of our iman to have that love. And so that's why the scholars of the past and even the scholars of today are writing these kalams so that we can instill the love inside us. We recite them in gatherings, we recite them in front of our children learn them, our children listen to them, our children try to understand them. And as a result of that, the belief inside our hearts, the love in our hearts increases, insha'Allah. And that was another beautiful example there of a kalam of how we can instill the love of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu ta'ala wasallam in our hearts. But today, viewers of Madani Channel, we're going to talk about an individual that collected the sayings of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to this very day we are benefiting for him. But just to give a little bit of a background to the lineage and the birth of this great personality, the famous muhaddis Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala, he was born in the famous city of Bukhara on the 13th of Shawwal 194 al-Hijri, on the Friday after Salat al-Asr. His name is Muhammad and his kunya is Abu Abdullah. His lineage is as follows: Muhammad bin Ismail bin Ibrahim bin Mughira. The great grandfather of Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala was a farmer and worshipped other than Allah Azza wa Jal. However, he embraced Islam later on the hands of the ruler of Bukhara. Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala had an age of around 62 years and he passed away on the 1st of Shawwal 256 al-Hijri in the night of Eid al-Fitr in the state of illness. And his blessed shrine is situated on Khartank, a town situated a little distance from Samarkand in Uzbekistan. Allahu Akbar. So again, isn't it amazing that the deen of Islam by this time had spread so far, that these great people had come by. And he was named, he was a great muhaddis because he studied the hadith of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're going to talk about that a little bit soon, inshallah. But just for his passion, he also had a great passion of ibadat as well, which is again something that when you look at the pious predecessors, that they loved to worship Allah Azza wa Jalla. It wasn't something that they thought, we're busy studying, we're busy doing this, we're busy doing that. We don't have to have this great passion and that we can spend our time doing. Even those people, they had this great passion to worship Allah Azza wa Jalla. And it stated that once he was invited by his students to a certain place, and there they performed the Salatul Zuhr. And after the Salatul Zuhr, Imam Bukhari rahmatullah ta'ala, he lifted up his kameez and he said to the people, what do you see? So his students, what they saw? And they saw that there was a poisonous insect that had bitten him approximately 17 or 18 times. Yeah? And the students said to him, when you felt that first bite, why don't you break your namaz? Why don't you break your namaz and push it off and, break your namaz and start your namaz later? And Imam Bukhari rahmatullah ta'ala said, I started a surah. I started reciting a surah of the Quran, and I wished and I wanted to be able to complete that surah. And that's why I did not break my namaz. Allahu Akbar. That great passion that these people had for the learning, for the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal. And today, nowadays, how easily are we distracted during our namaz? During our namaz, anything happens, and we're even to the extent that someone pips a horn and we listen, or someone walks into the room, we're reading our namaz and someone says Assalamu alaikum and we'll look. We're not concentrating on our namaz. And these sort of things, if we're not careful, they can break our namaz as well. So we need to be very conscious of this. But the scholars of the past, even when they were injured, they were bitten, they had stab wounds, whatever they had, they continued doing their ibadat and nothing distracted that from them. And nowadays we are distracted very, very easily. Not only in our ibadat, but also distracted in our deen as well. We can be on the right path for a while, but something will distract us. Something will take us off that path very, very easily. We're going towards the ijtima, we've made an intention to go towards the ijtima, and one little phone call, one little message, one little thing that we see, and we think, okay, we'll go there instead. And these distractions are very easily. And again, we need to, in our lives, viewers of Madani Channel, we need to focus ourselves a little bit more. Focus ourselves and discipline ourselves so that we can live our life as true Muslims. Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala, he has been given titles such as Hafizul Hadith, Muhaddis, Mufti, Hibrul Islam, etc. He had many, many titles people have given. And he had a lot of teachers as well. He used to search for teachers so that people could, he had this thirst for knowledge that he was looking constantly on the lookout for somebody that could teach him something. Yeah, he never thought that I know enough, and he was constantly on the lookout. And it says that Imam Bukhari had 1,080 teachers, not students, teachers. The teachers who he learned from, 1,080 teachers, Allahu Akbar. Just think about that, viewers of Madani Channel. That he had this thirst of knowledge, that he was constantly on the look of students. And it said that Allah Hazrat states that when Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala passed away, he left behind Listen to this, viewers of Madani Channel. He left behind 90,000 muhaddis. Not just 90,000 normal students, 90,000 muhaddis students, those who had the knowledge of the hadith. This is what a great personality he was, what a great scholar of his time he was. And even to today, we hear the name Imam Bukhari. Bukhari, you know what the Imam Sahib says, in Bukhari it states this, in Bukhari it states that. Yes, what is this? This is the collection of the hadith that Imam Bukhari collated together and put in his book Sahih Bukhari, the hadith book that he collated. The blessed father of Imam Bukhari, rahmatullah ta'ala, was also a great scholar. And he used to stay in the company of Imam Bukhari, rahmatullah ta'ala's teacher, Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mubarak, rahmatullah ta'ala. And he was a narrator and the one who possessed the knowledge of the hadith. He narrated from Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mubarak, Sayyidina Imam Malik radiyallahu ta'ala, and those students and those who possessed the knowledge of hadith in the era. His du'as were immensely accepted to the extent that he would humbly present his plea in the divine court of Allah Azza wa Jal, saying that do not accept all my du'as in this world, leave some for the hereafter. Allahu Akbar. He was so firm on consuming halal that let alone anything, something haram, he would even abstain from suspicious things, to the extent that at the time of his apparent demise, he, rahmatullahi ta'ala, said, whatever wealth I possess, not even a single dirham is of suspicious income. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, just reflect for a second. If we look at our wealth, our income, can we make that statement that none of our wealth has come from a suspicious income? And you'll be thinking, what is a suspicious income? Do we even know what a suspicious income is? Yes, viewers of Madani Channel, there is such a thing as a halal income and a haram income. Yes, your income, even though it looks the same, yeah? That pound note, that dollar bill, that rand, whatever it is, that euro, it looks the same, but it can be halal or haram. I'm not saying that it's made from the paper. I'm saying the way you earn that money, the way that earn that money can be halal or can be haram. Do you ever think about your income? Would you ever think about where you're getting your money from? That is my money that I am earning from a halal income, from a halal source. You know, if your source of your income is not halal, then your income is also not halal. And then the food that you consume with that has a detrimental effect upon you as well. So viewers of Madani Channel, we need to reflect as well. Where is our income coming? What is our job? What is our source of income? What is our business? And if you have any doubt, or even if you don't have any doubt, what does it take? One phone call. One phone call to Darul Iftar, one phone call to a reputable scholar, ask him, this is what am I doing? And then he might say, well, obviously that's halal. But okay, if he says obviously it's halal, what are you worried about? Then tige, you got nothing to worry about. But can we not afford to make that one phone call? You know, nowadays we all have these mobile phones and we have, you know, unlimited minutes on them, unlimited calls on them. Make that one phone call. Make that one phone call to a reputable scholar and say, this is my income, this is where I'm getting my income, and this is where I've got my income. Is it okay? Yeah? And if he says it's suspicious, or if he says it's haram, then it's time for you to make a change as soon as possible. Coming back to the life and the events of Imam Bukhari rahmatullah ta'ala, it says that Imam Bukhari rahmatullah ta'ala was still very young when his blessed father rahmatullah ta'ala passed away. And therefore his mother took over all of the responsibilities of bringing him up. In the childhood, Imam Bukhari rahmatullah ta'ala, he lost his eyesight. Yes, he lost his eyesight. He was blind in his childhood. And due to this agony, the blessed mother would weep and supplicate. She would do dua, regularly implore. She would implore in the court of Allah Azza wa Jalla to restore his son's eyesight. And one night her fortune shone, well, that while she was asleep and in her dream, she saw that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam had come and he said to her, you kept supplicating, you kept doing dua for the eyesight of your son to be restored. Congratulations, as your dua has been accepted. Allah Azza wa Jal has restored the eyesight of your son. Allahu Akbar. In the morning, she saw that the eyesight of Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullah ta'ala had been restored. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, the dua of a mother, the dua of a mother. It was a mother's dua that restored the eyesight of Imam Bukhari rahmatullah ta'ala. And you know, Islam gives great status to the status of the mothers, yeah? And the mother, you know, we're told that the mother's feet are the doors of paradise. And if only we can learn to respect and get the duas of our mothers. Successful is here, viewers of the channel. That person is very, very successful in this dunya and in the akhirat, who's fortunate enough to get the du'as of their parents. You know, I've seen many, many people that, you know, for some reason, you look at them and you think that, you know, they don't appear to, obviously we don't know everything, they don't appear to face any difficulties or any problems. And when you look into it and you find out that this person, he looked after his parents, he made his mother happy, he made his father happy, and his mother and father did dua for them. And as a result of them duas, the duas of the parents, the happiness of the parents, they are successful in this dunya, and inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, they'll be successful in the hereafter as well. And viewers of the channel, it's something for us to reflect. That, you know, do we even give our parents any time? Do we care about them? Do we worry about them? Do we look after them? Or unfortunately, in some cases, do our parents become a burden for us? You know, it was a couple of weeks ago that we had Dr. Khurram, I think, was on Madani Channel with us, and he mentioned that he was talking with another doctor, and he said this doctor was earning a salary of approximately £150,000 a year, and his mother was suffering from arthritis. And the doctor said to him that, you know, alhamdulillah, nowadays there are good cures for arthritis, that a person can live a normal life, you know, by having these medicine. And so, you know, you've got nothing to worry about. And this head doctor, who was on a salary of £150,000, he turned around and he said, oh, I don't know. I just think my mum's eating my inheritance. Astaghfirullah. That the longer my mother lives, the less money I will have when she dies. Is this what our parents have become? A paycheck? Are we all waiting for our parents to die so that we can, when my mum dies, when my dad dies, then I'll get a 1/4 share, I'll get 1/5 share, I'll get half the share, I'll get this, I'll get that, and with that I'll be able to do this and do this. And you are already planning, viewers of Madani Channel, is that what you're doing? Are you already planning how to use the inheritance of your parents before they've even passed away? Shame on you if that's what you're doing. Shame on you if that's what you're doing, that you're already planning for your parents' death, that you're planning on what to do with that inheritance. And again, I remember an instance where the brothers went to someone's house to seek, you know, console him that his father had passed away. And they went to his house to console him that, you know, we are very, very sorry that your father has passed away. And he turned around and he said, why are you sorry? My father only left me £63,000. Viewers of Madani Channel, is this what we've become? Is this what we've become? But at the same time, there's a flip side to this, viewers of Madani Channel. That if our children look up to our parents as just being a paycheck, if our children just look up to our parents as just being something that provides money, then maybe we have created that image in our children. Maybe when our children were younger, the only thing that we give to our children was money. We bought them the best trainers, we bought them the best jackets, we bought them the best BC tablets, we bought them the best games, we bought them a car when they were old enough to drive, we spent money on them to have a wedding, but we were never there to give them what they needed, i.e. their time. So all their life, what was mum and dad? The mother and father, what were they? There were things that bought them, that give them financial things. They didn't give them anything else. And so when that child starts to think like that, then maybe it's also our fault as parents. That maybe we put that thought pattern into our children, that our children are thinking like that. That all their lives, all we've done is provide for them financially, but we've not provided for them spiritually. We've not sat down with them and taught them and spent time with them, become close to them, become their friends, know what their likes are, know what their dislikes are, know what their friends are, know where they're going, when they're coming, what they're doing. Take an interest in their lives, take an interest in their studies, support them, encourage them. Whenever they have problems, I pray that that household is there where a child, if he has a problem, he can come to his mother, he can come to his father and say, Dad, I've got this problem, please help me. But do we have that relationship in our households? Does that mother have that knowledge where she can do the dua for the children? Or does the mother just think to herself, well, my job is to clean the clothes, my job is to wash up, yeah, and in some household, my job is also to go and make a second income as well, so we can run the household. That's my job done. And the father thinks my job is to work 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, to make as much money, build a nice house, my job done. Take it, that is part of your job. But at the same time, our children need our time. Our children need that tarbiyat, that training, that upbringing, that spiritual upbringing. And if that upbringing is there, where that mother does the dua for the child, Ya Allah, make my child a scholar. Ya Allah, make my child pious. And sincerely does it and brings her child from a young age. That household where the children are taught du'as, taught to recite kalma, taught to read namaz. You know, we heard Allah has it from a young age. You know, by the age of 4.5, he completed the Quran. By the age of 6, he was able to deliver a lecture. Yes, without doubt, that was God-given quality. Lekin, at the same time, the environment that that child was in. And what environment are our children in? Will that time come where our children are just looking at our bank balance? Will our children be just looking, oh, well, he's got that property, he's got that property, he's got that property, okay. And I've got one brother, one sister, so that means I'll have that and I'll have that. Is that what's happening? Is that what is happening? Or, you know, when we bring up our children, we bring them up in such a way that they respect us, they look after us. And again, there's so many flip sides to this. How are you looking after your parents? If you're not looking after your parents, how can you expect your children to look after you? If you don't respect your elders, how can you expect your children to respect you as well? And viewers of Madani Channel, the dua of your parents is so important. And we saw from the dua of the mother of Imam Bukhari that she sincerely did dua in the court of Allah Azza wa Jalla. It was not any medical science, it was not any operation, it was not the best hospital in the world that restored the eyesight of Imam Bukhari. It was the dua of the mother that restored the eyesight. And that is the power of dua, and the power of the dua of the mother. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, if only please think and reflect upon yourself and reflect on your house. Look around yourself and think, what is my household like? Is my household that kind of a household where we will do dua for each other? Is my household that kind of a household where we will try and live our life of piety, live our life according to the Quran and Sunnah? Is my household that when I get old and weak, do I have, you know, inside me, do I have a hope that my children will look after me? Something that we all need to reflect upon, viewers of Madani Channel. Allah Akbar. Sorry again, once again, I've gone off track from the main topic. May Allah Azza wa Jalla forgive me. But I think, you know, when we listen to these pious predecessors and listen from their lives, and I've said it before, that whenever we hear the stories of these people, they shouldn't be just stories. They shouldn't be just stories that they think, oh, this is a nice story, isn't it? That, oh, Imam Bukhari's mother did dua and he got his eyes started. MashaAllah, amazing, isn't it? Amazing. Yes, it is amazing. Yes, it is a good story. Yes, it is a nice story to tell our children. But at the same time, viewers of Madani Channel, what do we learn from these stories? What are the Madani pearls that we learn from these stories? How can we benefit from these stories? Why did I tell you this story? So that you think, oh, wow, it's a nice story. No. I told you this story so that we can learn something from it. Learn about that pious home and try and make our home a home of piety. Try to make our home a home of taqwa. Try to make our home a home that lives according to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Viewers of Madani Channel, we do the daily reminder, a reminder every day. So inshallah, now we're going to go to the daily reminder. And again, these daily reminders, what are they? They're there to make us think, to make us reflect, and hopefully to make those necessary changes that we need in our life so that we can improve not only our hereafter but also our dunya as well. Let's go to the daily reminder. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
By the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah.
My dear Islam brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, welcome back to our daily reminder. And today, inshallah Azza wa Jal, we're going to be reading out a very beautiful hadith of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam has said that be conscious of Allah wherever you are. Follow the bad deed with a good one to erase it and engage others with beautiful character. Subhanallah. So a few things the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam has mentioned in this hadith. Number one is be conscious of Allah Azza wa Jal wherever you are. Wherever you are, always think that Allah Azza wa Jal is watching over you, and no doubt Allah Azza wa Jal is watching over us. And we need to think and we need to understand that Allah Azza wa Jal is watching us. So before we do anything wrong, before we commit a sin, always stop and think to yourself that Allah Azza wa Jal is watching me. A person once came to a Buzurg rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, a very pious person, and he said to him that I've got this habit of committing sins. Can you help me? And can you give me any nasihat? And the pious person, he said to him that whenever you commit a sin, leave the land of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the person replied that, how can I do that? That's impossible. Wherever I go, it is the land of Allah Azza wa Jal. I cannot get away from Allah Azza wa Jal. And the pious person then said, then why do you not stop sinning? If you cannot leave the land of Allah, why do you not stop sinning? So it's very important that we think to ourselves, we are always conscious that Allah Azza wa Jal is watching us. And then that person, inshallah Azza wa Jal, he will not commit a sin. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, follow the bad deed with a good one to erase it. So anytime we do anything wrong, we are humans, we are insan, we will commit sins. But whenever that happens, always repent in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. Do tawbah, as Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the Quran. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu tubu ila Allahi tawbatan nasuha. O believer, repent in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. Tawbatan nasuha. This tawbah that we will never return back to that sin again. Inshallah Azza wa Jal. Once we did that tawbah with tawbatun nasuha, we will not go back to that sin again. And then the other part of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ is that do something good to erase that sin that you have done. Whatever we've done wrong, do something good that will erase that. Abu Zurg rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, once he wore his shoes, and instead of wearing his right shoe in first, he put his left shoe. Now this wasn't even a sin. It's just not a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, to put your left shoe in first. So he thought to himself that why did I even put my left shoe in first? And because of that, he kept fast for 1 whole year. Now that is what you call being conscious of Allah Azza wa Jal. That on the day of judgment, my beloved Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he will ask me about this. And then what did he do? He fasted for 1 year. Now think to yourself, when we commit a sin, do we do anything good after that sin? Or do we just say to ourselves, it's all right, I won't do it again. And then we end up doing them things again. The other thing the Prophet ﷺ, he says, and engage others with beautiful character. Your akhlaq is everything. Let's look at yourself. I look at myself, you look at yourself. How is my character? Is my character that people will come to me and people will love me for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal? Or is my character such that people, instead of loving me, they will run away from me? If that is the case, I swear, ma'azallah, I lie, I backbite, I'm jealous of other people, I tell tales, I do so many bad things. If that is the case, then beautify your character. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he says, when you engage with others, when you talk to someone, when you are with someone, then make yourself a character, a good character. Now this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, even though the hadith Pak was very short, but such a beautiful message that is inside this hadith. May Allah Azza wa Jal reward us all, and may Allah Azza wa Jal make us all pious and punctual Muslims. And Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal, one of the ways that we become pious is that we follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. We follow the way of the pious people, the righteous people. Inshallah Azza wa Jal, we will be successful in this world and will be successful in the hereafter, inshallah Azza wa Jal. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
By the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah.
Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Some great words there from our Mubalik in the UK, Hafiz Rafakat Atari. May Allah Azza wa Jal reward him, about how we should live our lives and reflect that, how are we living our lives and what sins are we committing, and where can we go? Where can we possibly go to hide ourselves from Allah Azza wa Jal? It's impossible. I've said it before that some people think to themselves that they can close the door and think nobody can hear them, switch off the light and think nobody can see them, go to a different place and think nobody knows them. Allah sees, hears and knows everything. Allah knows everything that we've done. Allah can record all of our deeds. Allah records all of our deeds and knows whatever we have done. You may be able to delete the memory on your phone, to hide so that nobody can see where you've been, what pages you've seen. But oh foolish person, if we are told that, authorities can record what you've seen on your phone, then surely Allah Azza wa Jal has knowledge of everything and knows everything and sees everything. that we have done. So again, we need to reflect on this, viewers of Madani Channel, that what are we doing? And you know, a couple of years ago, there was within Dawah Islam, we started putting stickers up in our houses. Allah is watching you. Allah is watching you. And I think if you have this mentality that Allah is watching you, whatever you are doing, I'm sitting here today, Allah is watching me. Allah is watching you. Allah knows what you are doing. Allah knows everything. Yeah. And if we have this mentality that Allah is watching you, Allah is watching you, Allah is watching you, then inshallah, it'll make you conscious of what you should and what you should not be doing. Viewers of Madani Channel, today we are talking about the great muhaddis, the great person that we hear about virtually every time we hear a religious speech. Whenever we hear a religious speech, we will hear the name of this person. We're talking about none other than Imam Bukhari. And we hear so many times that the Imam, the scholar, will say, in Bukhari it states this, in Bukhari it states this. And Imam Bukhari's book, Sahih Bukhari, has become a symbol of the Sahih Hadees, the most authentic book after the Quran, in which we follow and we get our knowledge from. And so that is why it is narrated so often, that when if anybody asks a religious question, and when anybody says that it's in this particular book written by Imam Bukhari, then people, will stand up and listen, as the authenticity of that book is virtually guaranteed. But how did Imam Bukhari get such a great status in this dunya? How did he acquire his knowledge, and at what time did he start acquiring this knowledge? It is stated that Sayyidina Muhammad bin Ismail Bukhari, when he turned 10, when he was at the age of 10, he had already acquired the basic and fundamental knowledge. When Allah Azza wa Jal created the passion of acquiring the knowledge of hadith in his heart, and he took admission in a madrasa in Bukhara in order to acquire the knowledge of hadith. And he worked really hard towards acquiring the knowledge of hadith. Students in our Jamiatul Madinas, they all have different thirsts. Some students want to have more knowledge, want to specialize in the seerat of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some students want to specialize in fiqh. Some students want to specialize in the science of hadith. Some students want to specialize in Arabic as well. And these are the specialists, part that we have within the Islamic knowledge as well. In the same way, viewers of Madani Channel, that when people go to, they become a doctor, they go and do an MBA, BS, they become a doctor, and when they do a doctorate course, a degree in medicine, then after that they're specialized. And it's the same with Jamiatul Madinah, that our students are specialized. But Imam Bukhari, that at a young age, he started to specialize in the science of hadith, in the knowledge of hadith. And it's stated that at the age of 16, Sayyidina Imam Bukhari, he traveled to Mecca and Medina to perform Hajj with his elder brother and his mother. After the Hajj, his brother and mother came back to the homeland, but he stayed behind to acquire further knowledge. Allahu Akbar. He's only 16, remember, viewers of Madani Channel. He's only a young 16-year-old, right? And it's at that time, again, something, whenever you hear these stories, it's something to reflect on. At that time, we didn't have these mobile phones. We didn't have, WhatsApp and social media and all these things where it's easily to communicate with people and easy to get in contact with people. When you got separated by somebody, you never knew when you were going to come back and meet each other. But at the age of 16, think about this, that they're there. And at the age of 16, they decide to stay. He decides to stay there. His mother and his father go back to Bukhara, go back there. He stays there. Why? To acquire the knowledge of the deen. Allahu Akbar. At the age of 18, moreover, at the age of 18, he also authored one book whilst he was over there. Sayyidina Imam Bukhari stayed in the Hijaz-e-Muqaddas. Hijaz-e-Muqaddas, viewers of Madani Channel, is that part of the Arab Sharif that consists of Makkah al-Mukarramah, Madinatul Munawwara and Taif. And he stayed there for 6 years and he acquired immense knowledge of deen. Allahu Akbar. And in order to acquire the knowledge of deen, he further embarked upon many journeys. He traveled twice to Syria, Egypt and Jazeera, 4 times to Basra, and many times to Kufa and Baghdad, cities that were in Iraq. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, traveling in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal to acquire the knowledge of the deen. At a young age, Imam Bukhari, he was age 16 and he stayed behind. His family went back. And he stayed there to acquire the knowledge of the deen. And again, he continued from there, he continued to travel. He traveled to these places that I mentioned, to Syria, to Egypt, to Basra, to Kufa, to Baghdad. All why? To acquire the knowledge of the deen. And he didn't do, at them days, to actually make the journey took days. To make the journey, to arrive at where you wanted to get to, wasn't literally go to the airport, get on a flight and get there, 2 hours later you're there. No. Viewers of Madani Channel, them days, they travelled by horse, by foot, by camel, by ship, whatever was available. And it could have taken weeks to get there. But why did he travel? Why did he travel? He traveled to acquire the knowledge of the deen. Nowadays, viewers of Madani Channel, when we ask people to travel in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal for 3 days, we find it hard. 3 days? Oh, I ain't got time, sorry. No, I can't travel for 3 days, I'm too busy. 12 days? No chance. 30 days? Forget it. 12 months? Forget it. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. But we look at this yearning, this thirst that our pious predecessors had. Imam Bukhari at the age of 16, he's there, and he's there, why? To acquire the knowledge of the deen. And he travels, why? To acquire the knowledge of the deen. And if we look at all of our pious predecessors, how they spent their time. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani Rahmatullah, that when he went to Baghdad, he was a young man and he stayed there to acquire the knowledge of the deen. And his mother said to him that, go my son, I may never see you again until the day of judgment. Why? Because at that time, when people traveled, you never knew when you were going to see them again. Why did they do it? Because they understood the importance of the knowledge of the deen. They knew that this knowledge was the cure for sick souls. They knew that this knowledge was the inheritance of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's why they wanted to do it. But viewers of Madani Channel, today, knowledge is so easy to acquire. I'm not going to say to you that get on a camel and travel for 2 weeks to a city and then go on there and meet one scholar, spend 1 day with him, acquire the knowledge of him for 1 day and then travel back. No. Today acquiring knowledge is so easy. And yet, we don't. I was just looking yesterday at my PC tablet, and more than 300-400 books are inside this. So easy to acquire the knowledge. And even then the capacity is so that I could probably store thousands of books here, thousands and thousands of books in this. But it's not right having books on your shelf, but do you actually read them? It's okay me having all of these books in my PC tablet, but do I actually read them and utilize them? Knowledge is so easy to obtain, but we don't. And maybe because knowledge has become easy to obtain, that we don't value it, we don't realize how valuable it is. But that's why viewers of Madani Channel, we try to talk about these people, that they can explain to us the value of knowledge, how knowledge is so important. You know, when you go to places like Pakistan or India, when you come back from these places, you value electricity. Because over there they have power cuts. And when you hear and you think, Ya Allah, we don't have these power cuts. And you value electricity. But if you've never been to these places, then electricity is just something you take granted for. When you go to these places and you come back, you start valuing water. Because in a lot of these places they have limited water or they struggle to get water. And when you come back, you value water. Viewers of Madani Channel, you know, we need to, in the same way, we need to learn to realize how fortunate we are that we have access to knowledge. We have access to the knowledge of the deen. It is so easy to acquire the knowledge of the deen. Whatever you want to learn, whatever science you want to learn, whatever topic within the deen that you want to learn, the books are available to download. And as I said the other day, I do not know how many hundreds of books are available on www.dawatislami.net, but I know that approximately 35 different languages the books are available. And if you were to just read them books, Allahu Akbar, then inshallah Azza wa Jal, you see a change inside yourself. But maybe because it's free. Maybe because it's free, we don't value it. And viewers of Madani Channel, we need to realize that, you know, this knowledge, even though it is free, that has been given to you, it has so much value. You know, sometimes you need to understand that something that is free is also valuable. And knowledge is something that if only we acquire, we only get the thirst of our knowledge, then inshallah Azza wa Jal, we will benefit from it. So please, make an intention to acquire the knowledge of the deen. Dawah Islami has so many methods of acquiring the knowledge of the deen. Our weekly ijtimas, our Madani Qafilas where we travel in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal, our Balagan classes, our Madrasatul Madina online, our courses online where you can go online and choose a topic, learn it at your time that you wish, inshallah Azza wa Jal, and improve yourself. So please make an intention to acquire the knowledge of the deen. It is stated that once Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala, he went to the famous city of Khurasan, and people requested him to relay some hadith to them. And he relayed to them 1,000 hadiths by heart. Allahu Akbar. 1,000 hadiths by heart. Viewers of Madani Channel, how many hadiths do we know? By heart. By heart. Of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is stated that Sayyidina Muhammad bin Abi Hatim and Sayyidina Hashid bin Ismail rahmatullahi ta'ala state that in the young age, when he was still young, Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullah used to visit the blessed scholars of Basra with us to learn hadith. He went there to learn hadith, yes? And apart from Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullah, all of us used to write the hadith down in order to secure it. So we all, whenever hadith we learned something, we used to write it down. After 16 days, we had a go at Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullah, saying that you have wasted the hard work of so many days by not recording down the hadith. That you have not written down any of these. So you've wasted your time here. That we have been here, we've been listening to the hadith of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have not recorded any, you've not written them down, you've been wasting your time. Allahu Akbar. Listening to this, Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullah ta'ala said to them, bring your pages where you have written down the hadith. Therefore we brought our pages. Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullah started mentioning the hadith to the extent that he mentioned more than 15,000 hadiths. Listening to them made us think as if he was the one who made us write it all down in the first place. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. That whilst they were all the students were writing it down, Allah Azza wa Jalla had given him this gift of memorizing the hadiths as he was listening to them. And he narrated back to them the 15,000 hadiths that they had listened to as well. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And again we hear that they were there for 16 days acquiring the knowledge of the deen. And like I said today, we ask you to travel for 3 days. We ask you not to travel such a long distance where we do not know whether you will get a comfortable bed there or not, or whether you will get food there or not. We ask you to travel locally, to a local environment, to the local masjids in our town, city and country where people welcome us, where the people from that town come bring us food and look after us. And yet still we find it hard to travel in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal. It's narrated that once Sayyidina Sulaiman bin Mujahid rahmatullahi ta'ala, he visited Sayyidina Muhammad bin Salam rahmatullahi ta'ala, and Sayyidina Muhammad bin Salam rahmatullahi ta'ala said that had you come a little while ago, I would have made you meet the child who remembers 70,000 hadiths by heart. Listening to this astonished fact, an urge came inside me to meet Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala rose in the heart of Sayyidina Sulaiman rahmatullahi ta'ala. Therefore, after leaving from Sayyidina Muhammad bin Salam rahmatullahi ta'ala, Sayyidina Sulaiman bin Mujahid started looking for Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala. When he met Sayyidina Imam Bukhari, then Sayyidina Sulaiman bin Mujahid rahmatullahi ta'ala said to him, are you the one who has memorized 70,000 hadiths? Listening to it, Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala said, yes. In fact, I know more hadiths than this. Moreover, I know the blessed Sahaba and the Tabi'een from whom I narrate the hadiths. I also know, listen to this, viewers of Madani Channel, I also know the date of birth, place of living, and the date of demise of most of the people that I've narrated the hadith from. So when a hadith was narrated, it was narrated from the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to a companion, to another companion, and so on and so on. And that chain, that it reached them, that he knew all of that chain. He knew where they were born, he knew when they were born, he knew when they passed away, he knew the date of birth, he knew the most of the information regarding that as well. This was the amazing information that he heard. And we can see from this, views of Madani Channel, that Imam Bukhari, he memorized more than 70,000 hadiths in his childhood. Remember, he was still a young child at that time. He was still a young child at that time. That, you know, he was considered a child. Maybe he was 16, 18, 17, or whatever it was, but he was still considered a child at that time. He was a young man. Now think to us, viewers of Madani Channel, when we were 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, or if we are 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, I have to think back of when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. What did we know? What knowledge did we have? What knowledge of the deen did we have? Did we know, or do we know, how to recite the Quran properly? Did we know, or do we know, how to perform our wuzu, our salah, our ghusl properly? Did we have any knowledge of the deen? Did we know anything about the seerah of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Do we know how he lived his life? Do we know about the message that he brought to us? Do we know about how to live our life according to that situation? By the age of 16, 17, 18, obviously namaz and fasting has become farz upon you. Do we know the rulings? Do we know how and what and when and where and how we should do this? Do we know at what point in our lives zakat is going to become fard upon us? Did we or do we know at what point in our life Hajj is going to become fard upon us? And when they do become fard upon us, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? When you get at that young age, 18, 19, 20, you're looking forward maybe to have a family, a life, to get married. Do you know the Islamic rulings on marriage? Do you know anything about the Islamic rulings on upbringing your child? Do you know any of these things? Or is it, dekhi jayegi, I'll see. I'll see as I go along. If you're somebody child, don't be like that. And if we look back, those of us that are now past that age, obviously I'm not 16, 17, 18, 19 anymore. I look back and I think to myself, what did I know? And if I'm honest with you, I knew very little. I knew very, very little about the Deen of Islam. Yes, I went to the local madrasa, but at that time the madrasas were not what they are today. You know, I wish that, you know, I was fortunate enough to go to a Dawat Islami madrasa. I didn't. And those children that go to the Dawat Islami madrasas now, they are blessed. And sometimes when I go to the madrasa of Dawat Islami and I see the children there, I see what they're learning there, I wish, you know, that I could be that age where I could go to these madrasas. So these madrasas of Dawat Islami, they are a blessing from Allah Azza wa Jalla as well, that, you know, our children are going there, they're acquiring the knowledge of the Deen, they're learning about the Sunnah, they're learning about the Dua, they're learning about the Adab, and they're learning about all those things. But as parents, it is our responsibility to ensure that our children have that upbringing, have that education, and acquire the knowledge of the Deen. And if we look at our brains today, what do we have? You know, what memories have we got? What have we learned? All right, even if you're my age, you're 50 plus, or whatever you are, whatever your age is, what is inside your head? What do you remember inside your head now? You know, and if you, a lot of people today, they know the tax codes of how, you know, to claim benefits. They know the part numbers of the cars, they know the models of cars, they know the engine sizes of all the cars, they know how much brake horsepower these cars can do. They'll know, you know, when it comes to sport, they know the statistics of each player, that this player scored so many centuries, he played so many test matches, he took so many wickets, you know, he toured here, he toured there, he did this, he did that. You know all of these things, but you don't know the basics of Islam. We all call ourselves Muslims, yet we know more about all these other things than someone else. And somebody gave me the example once. He said, imagine picking up a cricket bat. Now a cricket bat, what it does is it has a handle at the top and the bat part at the bottom. So it has the handle at the top. And he says, imagine picking up a cricket bat upside down. Yeah? So the handle of the bat is the bottom and you're holding the bat part. You're holding the bat part and you're standing there and you're claiming that you know everything about cricket. You know everything about cricket, but you don't even know how to hold a cricket bat. And he said that, aren't Muslims like that? Aren't Muslims like that cricketer who claims to know everything about cricket but doesn't even know how to hold the bat properly? Are Muslims not like that, that they claim to be Muslims but do not even know the basic fundamentals? And maybe that is the case. Maybe that is the case. Maybe that we do not have the basic knowledge of the Deen. Maybe we don't have the basic understanding of the Deen. And like I said, knowledge is so readily available to you, but viewers of Madani Channel, you have to get it. I cannot force that knowledge down you. I can just humbly request you that please acquire the knowledge of the Deen. There's a saying in English, and I mentioned it before, that you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. Meaning that you can take a horse to some water, but you cannot force that horse to drink water. You can say to that horse, look, there's water there, drink it, drink it, drink it. But if it doesn't want to drink it, you can't make it drink it. But what you can do is you can try and make that horse thirsty. You can make that horse tired, you can make that horse thirsty, so that when it goes to the water, it takes the water. Viewer of Madani Channel, knowledge is like that. We can take you to knowledge, we can tell you where to get the knowledge, but we cannot make you acquire that knowledge. All we can do here, viewers of Madani Channel, is try to make you thirsty for knowledge, try to make you have that thirst inside you that you want to acquire the knowledge of the Deen. And I pray to Allah Azza wa Jalla that by watching Madani Channel, by watching these programs like Rise and Shine and all the other programs that are broadcast on Madani Channel, especially one program I recommend you all to watch at the moment, is the program that during this lockdown, there's a program called Dilon Ki Rahat and also Madani Muzakra. Both are hosted by Amir Sunnat Maulana Muhammad Ilyas Attar Qadri. May Allah Azza wa Jalla keep his shadow upon us, in which he questions and answers are given from Quran and Hadith. And again, you can learn something there. And by listening to them, you'll realize that you have very, very little knowledge of the Deen. And today, viewers of Madani Channel, now we're going to that segment, the Daily Hadees, again, inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, with the intention that we're going to learn something. So let's listen to the Daily Hadees. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
By the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah.
Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Dear viewers of Rise and Shine, who are the best of the people? Sayyidina Usman radiyallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that the best of mankind, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, has said, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. That the best amongst you are those who learn the Qur'an and teach the Qur'an. How beautiful are these words. خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. And there are many blessings in regards to reciting, doing the tilawats of the glorious Qur'an. The Qur'an, it will be a proof for us on the Day of Judgment. The Qur'an, it will intercede for us on the Day of Judgment. For every letter that we recite of the Qur'an, 10 good deeds are recorded for us. And the reciter of the glorious Qur'an, he remains in the company of the angels, and constantly good reward is written down for him. The Qur'an, it cleanses our hearts, and it will be the Qur'an that will lead us into paradise. And in one narration, the position in paradise will be determined by the amount of Qur'an that we have memorized in this world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to keep connected with the glorious Qur'an, and may we spend our entire lives in teaching and in learning the glorious Qur'an. Ameen bijahin nabil ameen. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam.
By the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah.
Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Viewers of Madani Channel, you're watching Arise and Shine, and today we are talking about the great Muhaddis, the great personality, Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala. And we've been talking so far about his knowledge, about how he acquired the knowledge and how he had the knowledge and the command of so many hadiths. But he was also a very humble person as well. During the break, viewers of Madani Channel, I've been told that inshaAllah we've got a special guest, a very special guest that's going to come to us all the way from South Africa, inshaAllah. So as soon as I've got the guest online, inshaAllah, we'll go to him. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about the humbleness. Very briefly, we're going to talk about the humbleness of Imam Bukhari rahmatullah. It's stated that there was, at the time, they were building a traveller's lodge near Bukhara. They were building that when people travel there, they can come and stay there. And alongside him were many of his students and his helpers. And they were lifting up the blocks and building this house. But despite this, Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullah, he was also lifting the bricks himself. And he was building the walls. And one of his students stepped forward and said that, please lead this, that I will place the bricks. Allahu Akbar. And he replied, this action will benefit me on the Day of Judgment. So this wasn't when he was a student. This was when he had achieved the great status of having students himself. That he had the students and followers then. And at this time in his life, when you have such a great status, do you still continue to be very humble as well? Do you still continue to lower yourself as well? Do you still continue to be that person as well? And we can see here as a practical example that Imam Bukhari rahmatullah ta'ala was one of these people that no matter what status he achieved in his life, in this dunya, he was still a very humble person. And it stated that he survived, that whilst he was years of studies, when he was struggling then, he survived on just eating grass during his student years. And it stated that he would only survive sometimes on 2 or 3 almonds a day throughout the day. He would only survive on that. And on one occasion, Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala, he fell ill. And the doctor said that his intestines had become dry due to constantly eating dry bread. And on hearing this diagnosis, Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullah informed them that he had been consuming dry bread for 40 years. And during this time, he had never ever touched the curry, the soup, to dip the bread into. Allahu Akbar. This was the tremendous enthusiasm that they had of the chosen servants of Allah Azza wa Jalla, that they had this passion to acquire the knowledge of the deen, this passion to implement the knowledge of the deen, and this passion to pass on the knowledge of the deen. And what a great people they were, what a great inspiration they were, that they were very humble and they lived a very humble life as well. And there are many, many practical examples that we can also see today where Amir al-Sunnat Maulana Muhammad Ilyas al-Qadri, even today, he lives a very humble and simple life. If he wished, he could live a very luxurious life. But even now, he lives a simple life. He eats simple food, and he lives simply, he sleeps simply, and he wears simple clothes, as you can see on Madani Channel. Again, an inspiration for us all. And when you see the likes of Amir al-Sunnat, it makes you remember those great people that we had from the past, that this is a reflection of our great personalities. This is a reflection of our great heritage that we had from the past. And so, viewers of Madani Channel, inshallah, we're talking today about Imam Bukhari. I believe, I'm not sure, have we got our special guest today online with us? Has our guest become available? MashaAllah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Viewers of Madani Channel, unless you've already recognized the voice, it's mashallah Mufti Abdul Hamidi Saab from South Africa. And before I continue to talk to Mufti Saab, you know, we were talking about the humbleness of Imam Bukhari rahmatullah, that Imam Bukhari was one of those great personalities that when they were building the house of travelers, that he himself would lift the bricks and he himself would participate in this, and he himself was that person that would say that it would benefit on the Day of Judgment. And as I was reading that out to me, the one person came to my mind was Mufti Saab, Mufti Hamidi Saab, that mashallah, he is a Mufti Saab, he has a great status, a great following, but even then he's a very, very humble person. And maybe viewers of Madani Channel maybe have seen him that when he was in the jungles of South Africa and jungles of Africa, going there, spreading and preaching Islam, sitting down with the people there, eating with them, feeding the children there, sitting with them and comforting them. And it was a great inspiration for me, and I don't know if the viewers of Madani Channel say all that, but if you have the opportunity, find, you know, what Mufti Saab was doing in the African jungles, and inshallah, it'll be a great inspiration to you. Mufti Saab, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. And how are you, Khalid bhai?
Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. Mufti Saab, you know, when we chose this topic, and I thought to myself that, you know, I didn't mention anything to the technical team. I didn't mention anything to the technical team. I thought to myself, who is it that we can get on as a guest to talk about this? And I thought there's only one person that I think in my mind that could possibly give this topic justice, and that was you, mashallah, Mufti Saab. We're talking about Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala.
Khalid bhai, I just heard, you know, one or two sentences that you spoke about his humbleness. Indeed, he was a simple person. He used to look after his own needs. Despite being an honorable man and great teacher, you know, he had 90,000 students.
Allahu Akbar.
And imagine if he wanted a good and, good in the sense, comfortable life, you know, others must do his things. There would have been always people around him to give service. So this was his humbleness. Besides being such a great scholar, he feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was blessed with the highest rank of piety and righteousness. He feared Allah in everything he did. As he was blessed with highest rank of piety and righteousness, so the work that he did, he did not do to show his skills or his mastery in the field of Hadith. He kept himself away from backbiting and thinking ill about people, and always respected people's rights. He was very polite, tolerant, and gentle. Never got angry when mistreated by others. He always made dua of forgiveness for those who attributed evil to him. If he needed to correct any person, he would never embarrass him in the public. So these were some of the outstanding qualities of Imam Bukhari radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Sorry, I just heard few sentences, so I thought let me just add to that what you were already talking.
MashaAllah. But Mufti Sahib, you know, today we hear that name. You know, we were saying earlier on that whenever you go to the Jummah, to the Salah, or whenever you go to any religious gathering and the Imam Sahib or the scholar or the Muballigh speaks, he mentions the name Bukhari, in Bukhari, in Bukhari, in Bukhari. He mentions this. You know, what is the significance within Islam about, with regards to his works, and what status in Islam do his books take?
Well, see, Hazrat Imam Bukhari radiallahu ta'ala anhu, first of all, he was very intelligent. He had, you know, photographic memory. At the age of 16, he almost memorized the previous books of Ahadith. And see, like we talk about Ala Hazrat. Ala Hazrat had, you know, photographic memory. You know, that he would read one time, the whole book is saved in his memory. So there are some special blessed people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them these qualities and enables them to do great work. So, and he was very, very careful when he took ahadith. He would work very hard on the narration, knowing every rawi, where he was born, where he died, and what was his character. And so because of his carefulness in this regard, all scholars have consensus that the work that he has collected in his Sahih Bukhari is most authentic than any other book. Many of the authors of Siyasitta, they are his students. Even Imam Muslim is his student. Imam Tirmizi is his student. There are many other scholars who made a great contribution in Hadith. They are his students. So for that reason, in scholarly world, after Quran Kareem, the most authentic source of Islamic knowledge is Sahih Bukhari.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah. And I think it's something that's taught a lot, it's especially taught in our Jamatul Madinas, isn't it?
Yes. When we do Dora Hadith, that's the last year and the final year of Alim course, then the Siyasitta, the 6 most authentic books of Hadith are taught, and Bukhari is definitely on top of the list. And even the teacher who teaches Bukhari is more respected than the teachers who teach other books. It's because of the barakat of Imam Bukhari. Always that's a tradition that, oh, he's a Shaykhul Hadith, he teaches Bukhari. Then everyone, you know, takes it in a very, you know, high regard. Oh, wow, mashallah, you know, this person teaches Bukhari. I mean, all other books are books of Hadith, but Bukhari has that special attachment, and it is because of the author. He you know, he went so far places to take ahadith. He worked very hard. He traveled to Egypt, he traveled to Syria twice, he traveled to Basra many times, and spent 6 years in Makkah and Medina, 2 years in Makkah and 4 years in Madinatul Munawwara. And then he went to Kufa, Baghdad, and met so many muhaddithin in order to collect ahadith. So he started his work at the age of 16, and then he never looked back.
Allah.
According to...
You carry on. No, you carry on, please. Please carry on.
According to great muhaddithin who have written biography of Imam Bukhari, he had such a special connection with Sarkar-e-Do-Alam sallallahu alaihi wasallam that if he took a hadith, he will then do a special istikhara, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will come in his dream and guide him.
Allah.
And he would then ask, Ya Rasulullah, is this your hadith? And once confirmed, then he will include in his work.
Allah.
So that was another Rohani, contribution that Imam Bukhari had in his Sahih Bukhari.
Mufti Sahib, you were saying that from the age of 16, he traveled to acquire the knowledge of the deen. He traveled to Basra, to Egypt, to Syria, to Kufa, and to all these places to acquire the knowledge of the deen at a young and tender age. And obviously he sacrificed a lot of time. And it was because then people, they understood the value of the knowledge of the deen. And what we were saying earlier on, Mufti Sahib, is that knowledge nowadays is so readily available, so easily available, and yet we still don't try and acquire the knowledge of the deen. Is it maybe because knowledge has become readily available, that's the reason why we're not studying it? Or why is it, Mufti Sahib, that, the opportunities are there now? At that time, like you said, that the great Imam Bukhari had to travel thousands of miles, and it wasn't as if getting on a plane and arriving there 2 hours later. They traveled on horseback or by foot or on camel, and they traveled these great distances to acquire the knowledge, and yet they still made them journeys. And yet nowadays, when we are told that, look, come and attend Balagan class for 40 minutes, or read this book, or do this, we find it so hard to do. If you can just give some sort of, some advice to our viewers that, the importance of the knowledge of the deen, and why and how can we put that thirst inside us? Mufti Sahib, mashallah, you are a mufti, you're a scholar, you've acquired great knowledge. How did you obtain that thirst, and how can we obtain that thirst for the knowledge of the deen?
See, first of all, it is the fadl of Allah Azza wa Jal, with whom Allah desires goodness, He gives him understanding of deen. That means He gives him chance to learn ilm deen. But overall, as a nation, we should have tendency towards ilm deen. We should be ilm-friendly people, ulama-friendly people. The time before Islam is called time of ignorance. And the time of Islam is opposite the time of ignorance, which means that it is the time or the era of knowledge. So knowledge is within our system as a Muslim. And we should by nature be loving knowledge and looking forward towards knowledge. Unfortunately, sometimes, there are outside influences that, overwhelm and overpower our natural abilities as Muslims. And we become more of people who are looking for entertainment. Even in Islam, many people will look for entertainment. If there's entertainment, they will come. If there's a person reading with some good, artistic tune, people will come. If there's some kind of intermingling men, women, they can have some, eye contact on the name of Islam. They're enjoying that, so they'll come. And they would take that, just pure knowledge as a dry subject. So there are influences that overpower. That's why these days, if an alim or peer or sheikh, he doesn't tell you about keep full beard, or he doesn't tell you about namaz, or if he doesn't tell you about intermingling of sexes, people have more tendency and loyalty towards that person. He becomes like a magnetic power. He pulls people very easily. It's because people don't want to change. They want to have that feeling that we have spirituality and we have deen, but change is very difficult. They don't want to change. And a lot of people actually told me, my good friends, they said, look, Dawat Islami is good, but you guys want to change us, and it's very difficult for us to change. So we'd rather be with Peer Sahib who doesn't tell us, change. So these are some of the realities that in this modern age that we face. So the best thing I think we can do is to tell people about the fadail and the virtues of knowledge. One moment spending in learning ilm-e-deen is better than 24 hours, whole day and whole night of nafli ibadat.
Subhanallah.
So a smart Muslim, intelligent Muslim would be that who would look for opportunities to learn ilm-e-deen instead of just entertaining himself with something. So these are some of the things that needs to be highlighted to make our people aware what is most important for them. Remember that Hadith Mubarakah that it was after Asr and Jibreel Amin alayhi salam came and told Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding a Sahabi that he is going to die before Maghrib. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told that Sahabi that you are going to die. So he had maybe 1 hour, 1.25 hour maximum. And he asked, Ya Rasulullah, I know I'm going to die now. Tell me what neki I can do that I can earn maximum sawab. See, he got 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 1.25 hour left in his life. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, go learn ilm-e-deen.
Allah.
So the muhaddithin have discussed and they said, if there was any other nafli ibadat that could have earned more sawab than this, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have advised them that. But because the most reward is in learning ilm-e-deen, therefore Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam suggested him, go learn ilm-e-deen so you can get maximum sawab, and that would help you in the qabr and in the hereafter. So that should be the mindset of Muslim community. They must be knowledge-loving people. Bring knowledge on table. Where we sit, we talk about knowledge. None of our functions must be empty of knowledge. If we have Khatme Qadriya, why not there be a lecture? If we have a Khatme Khajgan, why not there be a lecture? If there's Urs or Fatiha or Milad, why should only be 3-4 hours naats and no lectures? I mean, lecture people learn. So that culture needs to be revived, that anything we do, there has to be some amount of learning of ilm-e-deen. And then inshallah, the zawq and the shawq of ilm-e-deen will grow inshallah.
Jazakallah Mufti Sahab, may Allah Zajirwaj you. Mufti Sahab, we're coming towards the end of our program now, so I'm going to have to say Jazakallah to you and give you my salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for joining us, Mufti Sahab.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah. That was Mufti Amidi Sahab from South Africa, MashaAllah. Another great inspiration that, MashaAllah, we have been fortunate here in the UK that Mufti Sahab has travelled here numerous times and blessed us with his presence here, and we've learned so much from him. And again, another very humble character that you can sit down with, you can listen to, you can learn from, you can ask basically, the scholars I've seen now, alhamdulillah, the likes of Mufti Sahab and the scholars within Dawah Islamiyah, I feel very comfortable that I can sit down with them and ask any question, whatever it is, and I will not be rebuked or told off for asking a silly question, so to speak. And Mufti Sahab is one of those great personalities within Dawah Islamiyah that has continued to spread the deen of Islam, not only in South Africa, but all around the world as well. And also he's very, very active in doing our translation work, and he has been busy in translating Kanzul Iman, a great translation of the Quran by Ala Hazrat, which you've all heard about. And inshallah is available on our website, www.dawahaislamic.net, and will soon come in the book form. We have a small package now with regards to a dream, yes, a dream that the mother of Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala had. Let's listen to the package. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
The compiler of Sahih Bukhari Sharif, Hazrat Sayyidina Shaykh Abu Abdullah Muhammad bin Ismail Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh, has worked tremendously hard in compiling the blessed prophetic narrations. He says, Alhamdulillahi Azza wa Jal, I have mentioned 6,000 ahadith in Sahih Bukhari Sharif. Before writing each hadith, I performed ghusl and offered 2 cycles of naful salah. Sayyidina Shaykh Abu Abdullah Muhammad bin Ismail Bukhari's respected father and mother, they were both very pious. His mother was so pious that her dua and supplications were always answered. When Sayyidina Imam Bukhari was a child, he became blind. Due to this, his respected mother was always tearful and upset. She would humbly supplicate and ask Allah Azza wa Jal to restore the eyesight of his son. Once, when she went to sleep, she dreamt of Hazrat Sayyidina Ibrahim Khalilullah ala nabina wa alayhi salatu wasalam, who told her, "You have consistently been praying for your son's eyesight. Congratulations, your supplications and prayers have been answered, and Allah Azza wa Jal has restored your son's eyesight." The following morning, when she saw Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh, the sight had been returned. May Allah Azza wa Jal, may the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal be upon him, and may we be forgiven through his sadaqah.
Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Viewers of Madani Channel, you're watching Rise and Shine, and today we're talking about the great personality, Imam Bukhari, rahmatullahi ta'ala. And today we've learned so far a little bit about the fact that how he acquired the knowledge of the deen and how a humble person he was. And as Mufti Hamidi Sahib says from South Africa, that he had so many students that if he wished that these students could look after him, but he used to care for himself and look after himself and didn't require the need of all these students, which if he had wished to, he could have led a very easy life, but he looked after himself and cared for himself. He was a very humble person, a very person that lived his life amongst the people and cared for the people as well. But he's most famous for the book that he actually wrote, the Sahih Bukhari, and in that it stated that he said that I knew 600,000 hadiths by heart. He said, I knew 600,000 hadiths by heart. And it took me 16 years, yes, 16 years to choose from them and write this compilation, Sahih Bukhari. And I have made it a proof of wasila between myself and Allah Azza wa Jal. I've only written the Sahih hadiths in my book. Those hadiths that I left thinking the book would grow very long and a lot more in number than these. It is stated that when he wrote these Sahih Bukhari, because like I said, he knew 600,000 hadiths. And today, Sahih Bukhari is like 9 volumes. And 9 volumes then is just over 6,000 hadiths. Just think how many volumes it would be if he wrote down all 600,000. But he chose these 6,000 hadiths. He chose these 6,000 hadiths. And he said that when he chose these hadiths, he said that Sayyidina Imam Bukhari rahmatullah states that I have mentioned around 6,000 hadiths in Sahih Bukhari. And before writing every hadith, I would perform ghusl, I would offer 2 rakat nafil salah, and I would perform istikhara. When I would be ensured about the authenticity of any of these, then I would add it to the book. Allahu Akbar. You know, again, if you as a Madani Channel, the fact that he would really care for making sure. We got a call? We got a call? I've been told we got a call. Can we have the call then, please?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I'm Shayan Adnan talking from Lilongwe, Malawi. आपसे कुछ कहना चाहता हूँ. आपका शो बहुत अच्छा लगता है मुझे और मेरे भाई, मेरे पापा और मेरी मम्मी को सबको अच्छा लगता है. अल्लाह बस आपके प्रोग्राम को आगे चलते रहे. आमीन सुमा आमीन.
Ameen. Jazakallah. Jazakallah. MashaAllah Azza wa Jal. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, viewers from Malawi in Africa. MashaAllah Azza wa Jal. May Allah Azza wa Jal reward them. And may Allah Azza wa Jal continue this. Again, it was sounded like a young child. And again, it's very happy to hear from children that have the thirst of the knowledge, thirst of watching these programs. And may Allah Azza wa Jal continue to enable our youngsters, our youth, to have the thirst of the knowledge of the deen. So inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, we have a bright future in Islam, inshaAllah Azza wa Jal. Viewers of the channel, today we're coming towards the end of the program. We're talking about Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi ta'ala, and time again is once again against us. And we've learned today that Imam Bukhari was such a humble person, such a knowledgeable person, and he acquired the knowledge of 600,000 hadiths. But what always, staggers me and amazes me is when I hear that how he wrote them hadiths. And just before that call, I mentioned the fact that he said that I have mentioned around 6,000 hadiths. Before writing every hadith, I would perform ghusl, offer 2 rakat salah, and I would perform istikhara. And when I had been sure about the authenticity of any hadith, then I would add it to the book. 6,000 times. 6,000 times he would offer ghusl. 6,000 times he would record 2 rakat nafil. And 6,000 times, more than 6,000 times he would do istikhara. And only then, when he was confident, when he was sure that he put in that book. And that is why, viewers of Madani Channel, today, the Sahih Bukhari book is considered the most authentic book after the Quran, and it's quoted by scholars all around the world. I pray to Allah Azza wa Jalla that Allah give us the ability to acquire the knowledge of the deen. Viewers of Madani Channel, you've been watching Arise and Shine, and inshallah Azza wa Jalla, tomorrow, same time, same place, will be again, Rise and Shine will be here with a different topic. But in the meantime, keep watching Madani Channel. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
By the grace of Allah, by the grace of Allah, even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise and shine, and the sun will rise and shine. By the grace of Allah.